All right, everyone. Hopefully you all had a lovely lunch and are feeling energized for the next round. This is the blue track, so Advanced XR 3D Visualization, and I'll let Kyle and them take it away.
Awesome.
Hey, everyone.
Welcome.
Yeah. How was y'all's lunch? Good? It was a pretty good lunch. Hopefully we'll try to keep you awake for this next 20 minutes. Without further ado, my name is, I go by M. Full name is Athicha Dhanormchitphong. I'm currently the digital reality ecosystem lead architect for ExxonMobil. I've been with the company for about 2 decades.
My name's Daughtry. I've been with Exxon about 18 years, a bunch of technical roles. Just the last couple of years, I moved over to the business to help try to drive this transformation that we're doing with the digital reality ecosystem. And hopefully you learn a bit here. Some of it's going to be repeat for folks that have seen it before, but we like to give a baseline of it. My role right now is the Innovation and Strategy Manager, so I'm looking for where we're going for this long term. Super quick intro of agenda, if this will work. There you go, perfect. Well, first, what is the digital reality ecosystem? How did we get here is a thing that we'll go through. Go through some of the use cases that we've uncovered, we're working on and continuing to scale, and then talk about scale. It's a big thing for us. We hit a pretty large year in the last couple of, this year and the past one. And then kind of a call for us to industry.
So we're obviously here in Augmented, Enterprise Summit. The life of Dre is really around 4 years right now, from project to a program. But before Dre, we went on a journey, probably close to a decade or more, right? And we actually, our roots came from XR. We started with really our goal to save lives through immersive training. Back when we were like, hey, I can visualize this and let me see if I can try to make some impact. Our customers led us to, well, if I can see those models immersively to try to save lives, what about our CAD models and things like that of our assets, And so we started visualizing that, but then that led to, well, hey, I touched on that, and there's got to be some metadata behind that, right? And that led us to really pseudo-digital twin platforms at that time. And then from there, it really led us to, well, cool, that's awesome. I can see my models and so forth, but can I see it in the real world, And that led us to really explorations of like, well, let's try to anchor that into that space before geos, positioning, and things like that, really QR codes and so forth, right? Long, long time ago. And that led us to, again, well, hey, there's a lot of efforts going on, right, across ExxonMobil, and really, it seems like there's an entire life cycle for all of this. How do we maintain all of that? And I'm sorry, before that too was, again, immersive training. How do we really accelerate that, optimize that? There's a lot of cost behind it, and how do we scale that, right? So we were working on some pipelines for that too. Really encapsulate all those efforts into this white paper about how do we manage it, but there wasn't an effort to do anything about that. And since that was the birth of the digital reality ecosystem. So the whole arrow led you about 10 years, and then where we are going to talk to you about is the last 4 years where we've been.
That's perfect. So M gave a really good journey map, but you might still ask, what is the digital reality ecosystem? What is it for us, for Exxon? And really for us, what we've been focusing on is trying to create the visual and spatial truth for the company across all verticals. And visual assets within our industry were useful things, have been useful things for a long period of time, but that actually anchoring it to the real world and making sure that we manage it over time, that wasn't something that existed, right? So we birthed this whole concept around how to build it, and that has been our marching orders, is how do we actually do it at scale across the entire enterprise. Really creating that, what is the thing in the real world, and where is it in the real world, and how do I attach information to that? But another thing that we kind of ran into is people all the time were like, well, it's super easy, just go pick a particular platform and then go run down that platform. But what we recognized is that a digital twin or a digital asset like this is not a particular platform or a tool. It's an ecosystem of data and information. So principles that we set really core are how are you modular to system? Are you open to integration? So across many different particular platforms. Whoops, this thing just flipped. I think I'm back, right? Yeah. And then how are you agnostic to platform? So that's been some of the core principles we've been shooting for the whole time, and we'll talk a little bit more as we go.
It's all about data. That's what we're trying to say. It's an ecosystem where data plays nice across. You've got emerging platforms that continue to come and penetrate different industries. And so we want to make sure that we own that data and stay flexible. This Venn diagram is really to help articulate the efforts of what we're doing for the corporation, right? So the top right, visualization, those are really the components that matter to us. 2D and 3D, so in our world, 2D are things like isometrics, piping and instrumentation diagrams or PNIDs, right? Fire water maps, satellite imagery, pictures. All that needs to be aggregated and sorted out. Same thing, what about our laser scans, right? What about our CAD models, our engineering models, and so forth? And on the bottom, the other component is really that data aggregation effort. Think of things about like 1D data, tabular data, risk data, project data, right? Sensor data, and so forth. And then you've got our bread and butter at the top, simulation. What we've been playing really has been so far on the visualization and the data side, but they really helped the corporation align on like, well, who's doing what, and when do we merge together, such as like the data platforms, and when do we get to predictive visual simulations and things like that. So,
yeah, I think one of the other big things just to call out here is that this isn't a single group, right? This is many different organizations. It's two faces talking to you right now, but there's a lot of other folks behind it. This clicker is just being fun. Which way
Next
do I
slide,
point?
please.
There we go. Okay, cool. So M kind of explained the 1D, 2D, 3D data. I want to kind of decompose that as visual layers of contextualization, and this is what we've been building up so far. There's a really amazing effort inside the company to bring together all of our engineering, inspection data, maintenance data through a singular equipment source, or a master record for equipment. If other folks are close to our industry, maintenance of what a piece of equipment is and where is it in the world has not always happened very well. So we set some roots, or that organization set some roots of, here's a master ID, tie everything back to it. Any of the geospatial data, any of the visual data, any of the engineering, inspection, all of that information tied back to this master unique ID. That's that visual data, right? To the 2D side of it, how do I start taking drawings that are just flat, right, like a PDF output, and turn that into smart PNIDs, or isometrics that are actual data components versus them being just visual representations that I can't really interact with other than drawing a line over a PDF. To where we've been focusing heavily is how do I create that, again, visual and spatial truth. A good example is just, us coming to this particular event, right? And that 1D side, I'm gonna look up information about this location, the ratings that this hotel got, and the amenities that it particularly has. That's a lot of information there. I'm gonna find my route, right, between A to B to get to that particular location. There's a lot of analytics and information that goes into that, right? Just like a drawing would be for us, or data from that drawing would be for us. And then I'm going to actually visualize whenever I get here. So I get here and I want to find something, I can just pull up my phone and navigate to that particular location.
Just building relationships, right? I'm going to go a little bit quicker because we're a little bit short on time. We could actually probably spend about a day just on the pillars of Dre right here. It's a novelty way to communicate on how data flows for us and really our goals. So it's broken down into capture, right? How we capture or create our assets, our 3D assets. In this case, think about, reality capture, our engineering models, even interactive 3D. And we've put some guardrails and guidance on that. Again, if you want to have an open, interoperable ecosystem, there's got to be some guardrails and guidance on data coming in or created or captured. Then comes where are we storing it. It's going to be centralized, right? It's a global ecosystem initiative. We're going to use the cloud, long story short, and try to make sure that we do. It led us to this whole storage and structuring of very large data sets, and how do we tie what things look like and where things are, like Kyle said. Delivery, autonomous, but think about that too. It led us to not just open APIs, but it started leading us to what does delivery really mean? Because what about segmentation? What about transforming that data set, right? From point clouds to a mesh and leading to other use cases. So the delivery pillar starts becoming a little bit more exciting over time. beyond just APIs, and how we consume that data at the end. The use cases are going to drive it. A headset, VR, AR, cool. Laptop, cell phone, even print it out. That's output of your data. How you consume is really a use case. Well, we want to make sure that you consume that data anytime, anywhere, and make sure it makes sense for our customers. The digital thread that comes back is that traceability, that relationship that Kyle was talking about, how we maintain that geospatially. Because at the end of the day, again, if we want to own our data, not only what we captured and created, we want to maintain that relationship to say, well, this object, as a chair, for example, is tied to this 2D or 1D data set. And here's a spatial, or here's a space and time. I move the chair, the location changes, but the relationship still maintains. And we do want to own that, and that's our geospatial thread.
Yeah, spot on. One of the things that he had mentioned was storage is a huge area, or storage and transformation is a huge area, right?
Yeah.
And what we recognized through this was there wasn't really a good open and agnostic way to be able to store both what things were and where they were, independent from particular platform. So we've been partnering up with industry to build, again, together with the industry, what things are, from storage of raw data to derivative information, from point clouds to scans to photogrammetry, 360 photos, you name it, and then ultimately a representation of where those things are in the world. Very quickly we realized that not everything can be tied back to a particular CAD model alone, and not everything can be tied back to a visual model alone, or a scan, or a point cloud. Really, you're tying it to where things are in the world versus, what the shape of it is.
Yeah.
We are gonna go faster because we don't have a ton of time. Go for it.
Oh, this is my turn. I'm sorry. Layers of context, right? Let's do it from clockwise. So from the top left, reality capture and 3D meshes. I told you we put guardrails and guidance on it, but there's already value in dumb dimensional data for being there without being there, for example, and even getting measurements such as the z-axis. Thinking about our conversations with a 2D diagram that have primitive shapes, circles, squares, rectangles, with a label on top. Well, we overlaid it with 3D to have more meaningful conversations and reduce that cognitive load. And even on the bottom right, if we're constantly taking pictures with an extra dimension, laser scanning, for example, right, and creating these 3D assets, there's got to be a way to bound those points together, say these sets of points is bounded to these relationships. And the minute there, you get more contextualization, right? It's the same thing as if you pulled up the Hyatt Regency right now and showed me the associated photos, the reviews, the address. It's one-dimensional data or two-dimensional data tied to a location. So we're doing that as well. And then we're also, again, we're combining our 3D CAD along with our reality captures. So again, we know what external looks like and what was designed internally as well, giving us such more richer contextualization for our operators as well as our other users.
Hopefully that was a good kind of background on where things have been, what we're focusing on from contextualization and the information behind it. But we also wanted to share kind of where we are from scale. This last year has been a really pivotal point for us as a company, us as an organization as well, where the left-hand side is kind of representing digital twin deployments across the globe of where things are in the world. There are folks here that we've been partnering up with within this particular space. But one of the biggest things that's happening for us is over the next year, we're going to have every one of our refining, chemical, and midstream assets, both digitized and contextualized with information. That's powerful at the end of the day.
There's a lot of data
that
coming
brings
in.
a lot of opportunity for both us as a company, but also things that we need to work with the industry here. If I can click again, there we go. It's just some representations of those use cases within the digital twin side. End of the day, lots of work within projects and allowing us to collaborate between greenfield assets and brownfield assets, where the tie-ins are between them, to get very good understanding prior to actually going to do work into the field. To construction tracking, right? I've got to be able to, if I can line up what it is in the real world right now versus what my design is or design was supposed to be, being able to see those offsets is a huge one. Top right-hand corner, visual inspections. So we're changing from the aspect of taking imagery and then creating inspection points and then going through a list. Instead of doing that now, so you have a visual representation of the model. You have red, green, yellow spots that tell you where deficiencies are. Maybe corrosion is, or a missing bolt. Could be any of those number of things. And being able to visualize that together with multiple people in that same environment. So the bottom part around turnarounds, turnaround planning and logistics, both from the turnaround planning part, but also from an execution stage, being able to visualize work list items for maybe clamps and understanding the timing of those things, to where things are in the world from cranes, equipment, temporary assets and information.
Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. I thought you clicked on accident.
No.
This is our footprint for XR. We've got a lot of assets. And as mentioned, right, we started out with that first, but there's 10 plus locations around the world. I'm just giving you an estimate. I don't know how many modules we have, but that again, starting off on that, it led us to things that you probably heard in the other talks. This is expensive. 3D models have to be designed. You've got to think about the interactions and making sure you address the pain points and so forth, right? Well, some of the pain points for us is we didn't have those models, but we realized they were already being created and captured all over the world. And so that's why we have that foundation to make sure if we want to continue to expand on this footprint, we got to have that data foundation. So that way we own it, we can reuse it. If we need to transform it, we can. So that way we can ingest it and consume it anytime, anywhere. Data foundation. And some of those use cases for XR are really here, and you've kind of seen it in the story as well, right? We talked about things such as, well, immersive learning. So taking those models for a basic operator training. Again, not to replace jobs or anything, but to supplement, right? To help the facilitators to say, let me show you without taking you out to the field. We'll do that later on, but this is going to be an additional supplement. So even design reviews, right? I'm in here, and I can't reach that control valve. Conversation over, versus taking measurements on a 2D screen, for example. Down to even thinking about our connected workers and making sure that, especially during the COVID times, right? Man, we had to make sure that those folks were still there without being there and be able to share documents and so forth. To even construction progress. Can we track, can we visualize those models and so forth? And what does it look like before we actually build it?
All right, so I think we've gone through like a little bit of that scale component. Big thing that we wanted to come here with is a call to action. We've done it kind of every year. We want to repeat this thing. Now, really, at the end of the day, our big ask are two different things. Help us continue to work with the industry partners to separate software from data so we have interoperability across platforms. I think that is a huge piece of it. But also there's opportunities to join in on that journey, and there's multiple work efforts that we're working on right now that we'll talk about a couple of them that we'd love to see other folks join into. One of them is actually currently between a bunch of our peers, and we're looking at how do we expand beyond that, of creating an open asset digital twin framework. We had just focused and released on reality capture guardrails and guidance across all of our types of assets, where Exxon, Chevron, Shell, BP, BASF, Dow, the kind of list goes on, are aligned on those. And we're working on into the areas of like, what do we do with 3D? What do we do with P&IDs and drawings? Huge opportunity there from an advisory called ARC.
And the other consortium that we participate in heavily is really the Digital Twin Consortium. This image really just shows you the breadth of that landscape. And I'm pretty sure Dan's got an updated picture for us, but right now that's the snapshot that we have. But continue to hear the amount of adoption within that consortium to grow. They run every quarter, but long story short, you really get a big breadth of the entire landscape of where folks are within digital twins. And discussions about interoperability to various frameworks and capabilities are all discussed there as well. So. It's your turn.
Awesome. So industry help. There's a lot of things that we can work together on. We look at it from those pillars perspective. Capture, geospatial accuracy is a baseline. And I think we want to keep on repeating that over and over again. It's kind of a non-negotiable for us to make sure that we can relate it back to our major assets. Storage. We need to look at standardized formats. Obviously, we've all been looking at USD, GLTF, all of these others, but how do we actually get our industry players to dive in deeper to make sure that they're supported across that pipeline? To the delivery, how do you end up establishing standard 3D pipelines for data versus all of us creating our own? Kind of isn't really helpful. It's helpful for each of us, but it's high cost. To leveraging segmentation and classification standards. This one's a vertical specific. It's really hard to create classification for many different industries. It's a really vertical focused one. Two, the big piece we want to push into is field applications and how do we get interoperability there geospatially versus having to go to multiple different platforms and feed each of our data. We need to be able to do it across the board.
Folks, we got a little bit of time left, so hopefully we can play a video for you. This video really shows you how our data is being used and consumed.
Hopefully we got a couple of minutes for questions after. Awesome. All right. Appreciate the time. Last thing we want to leave you with is we have moved to a visual way of working. You can see we're scaling. Please come join the journey. That's what we want to figure out.
Appreciate it.
Questions?
Do we have time,
Do we got time for questions?
or?
Okay, cool.
Okay. Yes, sir.
So first of all, kudos to you and the team for the amount of assets that you have digitally captured globally. That's amazing. But as we know, reality capture is a snapshot.
Yeah.
So is there any plan for refreshing
Yeah.
these models every year or something?
Yeah, so,
Oh, yeah.
so MOCs is probably the biggest thing that we've been paying attention to, right? Like every asset degrades over time. So if it's a CAD model of a facility, reality capture of a facility, all of it degrades. I think what we found is as long as we give the sites and the assets what visuals look like, and then tied to an MOC that might have had a change in that environment, they at least know that this might not be completely as built, but this is ever known. This is me knowing that that thing's potentially out of date. And then all of those changes are actually tied back to our MOC system now. So our integrity management system, how you actually go out there in the field and operate, the changes are associated with them. So if a change actually happens, we'll accrue them over a period of time and then go back out and either during a turnaround event, rescan an entire asset, or maybe you'll do, if it accrues over a period of time, you might scan a couple of small areas or units.
The guardrails are really going to help as well, too, on the capture side, right? To make sure not everybody is using a metrology-grade scanner or a terrestrial-grade scanner when they can use SLAM or aerial if they need to. And we also have an ecosystem of service providers that are interested as well, that compete on time and cost. So we've got some things in place, as well as we're also working on really self-capture kits as well. Right, this major project that Kyle was talking about to be really scanned by 2026 is like a sweep. But after that sweep, you already have sites already saying, well, I do want to do things myself tied to that MOC, so we are trying to package that up as well.
Yeah, and not saying that we've completely solved it, right? But we've got some good thought processes of how to actually maintain it over time.
Nothing's perfect. We're still working. It's always trying to tighten that screw.
We'll do one more quick question, actually.
Yeah, thank you very much. A really very nice presentation. Actually, this was one of the motivations why I came all the way down from Germany to here.
Holy cow.
Oh, man.
Thank you very
Thank you for
much.
coming.
Thank you.
One question, though, is how do inspection prioritization with tools like risk-based inspection benefit from the new ecosystem?
Yeah. So I mean, it was just like a little visual. The hardest thing with the risk-based inspections has been like, what do you prioritize? But there's already there's RBI processes already put in place to say, here's the highest risk, highest potential tolerance. But not being able to visualize that all in in an area has been a hard factor for folks. So that thing was an image of a drone that's gone around and captured the facility or captured that particular area, and each of the images are classified with that risk-based approach to tell it red, green, or yellow if it's deficient or not.
Low,
They've had to
medium,
look
high.
through lists.
Yeah.
The hardest part has been right now to be able to aggregate that. You either look through list or you assume AI can be able to tell you what the problem is better, versus being able to visually see the asset and say, hey, there's a hot spot here of problems. I need to go action on this space.
Can I build on that on
Yeah,
the data
for sure.
side too? So he's talking about those drone images and the classifications through AI, right? And then there's efforts that we're trying to even determine, like if we're getting all these scans, there's probably going to be panels captured, and those panels can be broken into cuboids, and those cuboids can be fed in an algorithm to do image segmentation. The image segmentation can be fed for classification, but then it leads you through this whole process of like, well, great, I've identified it, I've tied it, I've classified it, now take me there. How do I get there, that wayfinding, right? And so the location accuracy, how we store that data product as well, inspection data product, for example, are things that we're trying to iterate on now, right? And there's that call to action that Kyle was talking about geospatial interoperability, accuracy, localization. In our world, I mean, if you've been to a refinery, it's an entire city of pipes and and steel and so forth. Things changed quite a bit. So that wayfinding, not saying walk here and take a left, make a right now. We just need 500 meters that way, 400, 300, 200, find the rest, right? But I mean, that's where we're at for that baseline. We're trying to figure that out as well too.
Yeah. Do we got time for one more, or is that it?
It's your call, Alex.
Yeah, we'll do one more.
All right, cool. You had yours. Go for it.
Two questions ago regarding the refresh capture that's necessary after changes type of data. Have you guys considered a static array of sensors always capturing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, finish. Go for it.
Your answer to that, and I guess a second follow-up is, have you also considered analyzing ergonomic poses of users for performance feedback?
Even missing
Yeah.
PPE and so forth as well,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, so yes, what has not happened across all of our assets is standing up. So the infrastructure is actually getting stood up right now. There's a big effort. Our scans are part of that big effort. Another part is infrastructural changes. So then we can bring always static cameras in all areas. So then I could do that. I can go based off of that. For both, I get dual use, right? I get the ability to be able to see risk in the field, and I get the ability to be able to do analytics on it. Currently, we're not there, but absolutely. To the side of Do I have robotics doing continuous capture as well? Or a drone swarm doing continuous capture of the facility? There's a couple of different pathways that we're looking at. We haven't nailed what that's going to look like yet, though.
To
We'd love to talk more about that.
even this, right?
Yeah,
We've got other
to
folks
self-capture, right?
trying to do
being able
self-captures and splats and so forth.
That one's a difficult one to get good location information off of right now. If anybody's got a plan for that, we'd love to talk.
Cool, thank you. If you guys want to find us, you can find us on LinkedIn. Kyle's probably easier to find. If you can find him, you can find me. So thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank y'all. Appreciate it.